Well, we're sometimes asked by GCAD Plus users, why is my drawing so slow to edit? Well, I'd like to use this drawing to illustrate strategies that you might use to overcome that problem. The most common reason is that the file size has grown far too large. If we look at this drawing and go to File and File Size, it's 2.9 megabytes in size. It's a very large drawing indeed, and it is somewhat sluggish to work with, although that may not be immediately obvious. But I can see some unusual looking hatching here, and if I click in that zone, can you see it just consists, let me zoom right in. If I pick one of these, maybe I go to View and Background Color Black, and I can see there are not even polygons here, and there are lots and lots of short line segments. So there are literally thousands of lines. Actually, if we grab most of those and have a look, there are 9,918 short line segments. Now, although I've been able to grab them all and I'll eliminate them, I want to show you one technique you could use, because in this instance the layer, those exploded hatch patterns are on a layer called Images. So we could go Tools, Isolate a Layer, and come down to Images and say OK. And there, quite a lot of things are on that Images layer, but I'll repeat what I did before and erase them. I then go back to the layer palette. Let's turn all use layers on, and the drawing comes back to us. What I then want to do is go Tools and Purge Unused Objects, and lots of layers and blocks can be removed, and then I'll save, and then we'll say File Size. Remember, it was 2.9 megabytes. It's now been reduced by 25%, and that's a substantial saving, and editing performance should be a lot better. Well, the intention is to hatch this area through here, and it's a polyline, and I think I would prefer arc option in the polyline to be used rather than lots and lots of vertices, but I digress. I'll change my view back to background color of white and hit the escape key and come over here. What I've done is copy some of the hatching that was in that area across to here, and I've also brought in the hatch palette, and so I can determine that the hatch pattern in here was gear scale 600. Draw and hatch, pick the entity, that's the polyline, hit enter, and we're looking for gear gear 3, and we wanted a hatch pattern of 600, I think, from memory, and we can OK that. Let's try that again. Hatch, pick the entity, hit enter, 600, and OK it. For the third time, that did not work, and if we come over here, the reason it didn't work, we should have closed it and try again. Hatch, select the entity, hit enter, and 600 is the scale, and there we are. In goes the hatch pattern, which looked very like that original, I think, and there we are. Let me go back again to View, Background Color and Black. So there's our Tuscan style hatching, which comes to a driver, from a driver, around through here, up onto a deck, and also out into the back garden. So the key issue is we've reduced the file size from a substantial number down to 477 kilobytes, and we're at 2,900 kilobytes before. So a big decrease, and it's much cleaner. We've also replaced thousands of individual line segments with one single hatch entity. And because hatching in GK Plus is associative, we can take that polyline that was used as the entity to hatch, and we can, for the sake of argument, we might want to extend that hatching. So I can pick on this grip and then use snap and come to here. Can you see that as I change the position of the vertex, the hatching comes with me? I'd be inclined, because I want to pick up various entities, although I think if I move around here, I'm going to, the next entity, I want to come up here and around there, so I want more hatching under that feature tree. Now, I need to add additional vertices, and the way to do that is right-click and insert a vertex, and I can then move this vertex across to the end of that line, and we still have this vertex here, and we can move them to the end of that line. So the hatching is now moving along nicely, and the aim is to move it to the back in a little while, and we'll see, we probably do that now because see it overlaps here. But perhaps before we do that, can you see we need to go new vertex end. So I'll go to running snaps, turn it on. Now we have a running entity snap to the end. So I can insert a vertex here. I can then move that vertex over there and move this one up to, having trouble picking an endpoint there. Now it's right, and so on. I'll just pause things until I finish doing that. Well, you would have noticed that I was having great difficulty moving the vertex to the correct point. Now this is not one of my drawings, and I normally operate without running those snaps. But if we come back over here, you may remember I set this endpoint object snap on. What I didn't notice was the node point and nearest were also operational, and that's what was causing me grief. Once that was corrected, I could go ahead and locate new vertices where I want them. Well, I now have all the vertices of the polyline in their correct places, so I can hit escape. And now what we want to do is we want to bring the tree above. We can do this in a number of different ways. I'll move that out of the way. I'd probably be inclined to try first picking the hatching and then use tools and send it to the back. And now you can see it, the hatching that is hidden by the design calls for seating around here and some planting in the space behind the seat. I'll probably be inclined to pick that one and tools and bring it to the front. And now the hatching goes behind the leaves of the deciduous tree. So we zoom out and we immediately see that although our hatching that moved through here is the way we want it, we need to do some further editing to straighten things up. We want to go straight from that point perpendicular to this line. So don't be frightened to use construction lines. I'll go from the end of that line to the end of this line and use that as a construction line. So here we can maybe insert a vertex there, move that to the end of this one. Let's straighten that out. We need another vertex, I think, and another one here, and we can bring this one in the approximate position, then take that and insert another vertex. We'll move this one, move it perpendicular to there, and I'm sure you can see the way that I'm operating. I can do the same again, and there we are. Let's just remove that construction line, and I'm now happy with that approach. So we now have a paved area, so it's now evolving as a completed design.